Preface. In the world, there are countless mysteries, and one of the most astonishing is that of megalithic structures. How could ancient civilizations, without modern technology, erect gigantic stone buildings weighing over 1,000 tons? Official science provides answers, but its explanations don't always feel convincing. Our story is based on real facts that force us to question the accepted version of history. We will travel to Lebanon, to the ancient city of Baalbek, where ruins defy all logical explanation. We will immerse ourselves in a world of alternative hypotheses, ancient legends of giants and their technologies, and, along with our hero, we will try to find the truth. Are you ready for this journey? Chapter 1. Jack Miller sat in his airplane seat as the engines roared on the runway at JFK. He was a graduate student in the archaeology department and, to be honest, he wasn't thinking about megaliths at all. He just wanted to finish his dissertation, but then came this trip to Lebanon. The assignment was unexpected, but also very prestigious. Professor Miller, his academic advisor, personally recommended him for an international project to study Baalbek. "Jack," said the professor, stroking his thick, mop-like beard, "there are, of course, Roman structures there, all as they should be, but there are also a few curious details. We need your fresh perspective. Remember, official science is not dogma, it's a quest." Jack nodded, thinking, a quest for what? It's all in the textbooks. It's accepted fact. The Romans built it, and that's all there is to it. He was a pragmatist to the core. No giants, no flying people, just facts proven by time. The plane gained altitude, and white clouds drifted past the window. Jack pulled his laptop out of his backpack. On the screen were articles about Baalbek, the Temple of Jupiter, the Temple of Bacchus, the Temple of Venus. Everything was by the book. But suddenly, he came across a strange article. The title read, "The Mystery of the Trilithon." Jack, harumphing, typed Baalbek Trilithon into the search bar. The screen displayed a photograph of giant stone blocks, perfectly laid in the foundation. Each one weighed over 800 tons. 800 tons. Jack muttered, "That's just incredible." He remembered a video his alternative history friend once showed him. Some bearded guy was saying that the ancients knew how to split stones using wedges, but Jack didn't believe it. Suddenly, a man sat down in the seat across from him and, with a smile full of mystery, asked, "The mystery of the Trilithon, huh? I see you're interested in alternative history, too." Jack, abruptly closing his laptop, tried to pretend he was asleep. But the man didn't give up. Chuckling, he said his name was Joseph and he was also flying to Beirut. And he had an offer for Jack that he couldn't refuse. "I know why you're going there," Joseph whispered conspiratorially. "You're looking for what's left of the giants. But you're looking in the wrong place. I know where the main secret is hidden, and I'm ready to introduce you to it. Are you ready?" Jack swallowed. He didn't know what to say. What a strange guy. But one thing was clear. This trip was definitely not going to be what he had imagined. Chapter 2. Giants. What are you talking about? Jack finally spoke, feeling his scientific logic enter a mortal combat with the absurdity emanating from his fellow passenger. Joseph, a man in his 50s with a cunning squint and piercing eyes, leaned back in his seat. His leather jacket creaked. "About those who really built Baalbek, my young friend. Not the Romans. The Romans just came and put their own touch on it. True greatness isn't in the columns and pediments, but in the foundation. Those very stones weighing 1,000 tons. Or do you believe that hundreds of slaves hold them with ropes?" "There are mechanisms," Jack argued, frowning. "Levers, pulleys, ramps." Yes, Joseph interrupted him, squinting mockingly. "And you, a student, believe that? Have you tried to move even one such block? Or at least a life-size model of it? And then lift it 3 feet off the ground? It's impossible. Even our modern cranes struggle with such a task. But I've heard that the giants possessed some kind of anti-gravity technology. According to legends, they were called flying people. Flying." Jack involuntarily laughed. "That's not just alternative history anymore. That's fantasy." "You think so?" Joseph didn't seem offended. "What about the legends of the Comanche and Navajo Indians about white giants who could build the deepest wells, where water rose by itself. Doesn't it seem like that's a description of hydroengineering technologies far ahead of their time? Jack fell silent. He had, of course, heard of such legends, but he had never taken them seriously. They were just folklore, bedtime stories, not scientific fact. And yet, there was a strange conviction in Joseph's words that made Jack feel uneasy. The conversation shifted to the topic of official science. You official historians can only stick to dates and names of emperors. But you don't see the essence. You don't see that in every legend, in every myth, there are seeds of truth. Joseph spoke with increasing emotion. The essence is in the facts, not in fiction. Jack retorted, feeling himself starting to get heated. We have archaeological finds, we have written records. You only have fairy tales. Their argument lasted until landing. Joseph, seeing that he wouldn't convince Jack, just smiled and handed him a business card. It read, Joseph, researcher. No phone number, no address. If you want to see the truth, call. Just say my name in any cafe in Beirut, and they'll find me. I'll go my own way for now. I'll go looking for that very cave in the mountains. What cave? Jack asked. The one where the witness stone is hidden. Joseph winked mysteriously and disappeared into the crowd of arrivals. Jack stood in the middle of the airport, clutching the strange business card. A witness stone. What a fabrication. He was sure he wouldn't follow the weirdo. Or should he? Chapter 3. Beirut greeted Jack with a roar and a blast of heat. The air was thick with a cocktail of spices, car exhaust, and blossoming trees. The taxi driver, a strong man with a thick mustache, drove through a labyrinth of narrow streets, while emotionally chattering in a mix of Arabic and broken English. Jack just nodded, feeling completely lost in this whirlwind of life that so contrasted with his stuffy academic world. At the hotel, Peter Galkin, the head of the American group, was already waiting for him. He was a man who seemed to have been carved from a stone of Baalbek. A straight back, a tough, penetrating gaze, and a habit of always speaking strictly to the point. Standing next to him was a young Lebanese man, with a wide smile and huge, curious eyes. Jack, finally. Peter shook his hand. This is Omar, our colleague and guide. He's also a graduate student, so you'll find common ground. Omar nodded, and his smile grew even wider. Welcome, he said cheerfully. The next morning began with a trip to Baalbek. The road led through mountains covered with cedars and olive trees. Peter, settled in the back seat, read some document, while Jack and Omar chatted. This is a very unusual place, Omar said. Many locals believe the legends. My grandfather, for example, used to say that Baalbek was built by jinns, ancient spirits who lived in these mountains. That's interesting, of course, Jack interjected, but we know it was the Romans. The temple of Jupiter, the temple of Bacchus. The Romans built on top of what? Omar suddenly became more serious. The foundation. That's not their work. Locals say it was the work of those who were here before them. Before the Great Wars, before the flood. Nonsense, came Peter's thunderous voice from the back.
No djinns. No floods.
Only human genius and perseverance. We have all the evidence. The Romans built ramps, pulled stones with ropes. Of course, it was difficult, but it doesn't contradict physics. Listening to their argument, Jack felt his convictions begin to waver. He couldn't wrap his head around the image of hundreds, maybe even thousands, of people pulling those giant blocks. It seemed too unrealistic. Finally, they reached Baalbek. Jack froze. The majesty of the ruins was striking, but his gaze was fixed on the trilithon. Those 3 huge stones, as if pressed into the ground. They were perfectly flat, fitted together with incredible precision. Next to them, the Roman columns looked like mere trinkets. The whole day was spent on research. Peter studied the inscriptions, Omar took photos, and Jack just kept circling the trilithon. He touched the cold stone, trying to understand its secret. The official version, which was so vehemently pushed on him, now seemed implausible. That evening, sitting in his room, Jack took out Joseph's business card. The witness stone. He suddenly realized he wouldn't be able to sleep peacefully until he found out what it was. He decided to take a chance. Leaving his room, He approached the concierge. "Excuse me, do you know? Is there a cafe here in Beirut where I could find a man named Joseph?" The concierge, a stout man in glasses, looked at him in surprise. He looked Jack up and down, then smirked and pointed to the door. "Just go outside, walk straight, you'll see the sign. Interesting people always gather there. You won't get lost." Jack walked out into the street. The city was glowing with lights. The same cocktail of scents hung in the air again. He was completely bewildered. Where was he? Why was he here? And what awaited him in this mysterious cafe? He didn't know, but it was too late to turn back. He took the first step into a world full of mysteries and secrets. Chapter 4. Stepping onto the noisy street, Jack took a deep breath of the humid, warm air. As luck would have it, his phone's navigator was showing something ridiculous, so he had to rely on his intuition and the concierge words. He walked straight, past neon signs, loud music blaring from bars, and the clamor of people in a hurry. The city was bursting with life, and its energy seemed to captivate even him, a pragmatist. Finally, around a corner, he saw what he was looking for. The sign for Al Joseph, in Arabic style, glowed with a soft yellow light. It was stuffy but cozy inside. The air was filled with the aroma of hookah, coffee, and fresh pastries. There were only a few people, but they were all immersed in lively conversations. At a distant table, in the back of the hall, Jack spotted a familiar leather jacket. "Joseph, I knew you'd come," Joseph said when Jack approached. "A researcher's intuition isn't science, it's a gift." Two men were sitting next to Joseph. One, grey-haired, with a beard, looked like a professor. The second was a young man in his mid-twenties with fiery eyes. "Meet them," Joseph introduced them. "This is Jonathan, my old friend, a geophysicist. He loves mysteries, too. And this is Amir, he studies ancient languages and manuscripts." Jack sat down, feeling out of place in this company. He was an outsider here. "So you were looking for me to tell me another fairy tale?" he asked, trying to be as polite as possible.
A fairy tale.
Joseph laughed. "Jonathan, show our friend your research." Jonathan took a battered tablet out of his bag. The screen displayed a three-dimensional model of the stone of the pregnant woman, another gigantic monolith found near Baalbek. "Look," Jonathan said. "Official science claims it was left because of a crack. But look closely." He zoomed in on the image. "Do you see these marks? They look like cutter marks. Too even for manual work. And there's no crack, just chipped edges." "That could be anything," Jack countered. "The tool you call a cutter could have been an ordinary chisel with a special tip." "And what about the unfinished obelisk in Aswan?" Amir chimed in. "It was also abandoned, even though it could have been finished. Look, it lies in the rock as if it was cut with a laser beam. How would you explain that?" Jack was silent. They didn't study such details in the university, and there were no such photos in the textbooks. "And now," Joseph paused, "are you ready to hear about the witness stone? It's not a fairy tale, Jack. It's what proves that not only the Romans were here, but someone else." Joseph took out his phone and opened a photo. The screen showed something that looked like a piece of a metal alloy, with clear patterns that seemed to have been carved at a molecular level. The photo was taken in a dark cave. "What is that?" Jack whispered. "That's a piece of an ancient machine," Joseph said quietly. "We found it in a cave that locals believe was a refuge for giants. This witness stone is not a simple artifact. It provides energy. It's impossible to destroy. It's proof." Jack stared at the screen, not believing his eyes. This was too incredible. Joseph, seeing his shock, smirked. "We are going there tomorrow, Jack. Are you ready for such a journey? Do you want to see the truth with your own eyes?" Jack's breath caught in his throat. He knew this step could destroy his entire academic career. But he also knew that now he simply had to see this for himself. Chapter 5. Jack woke up long before his alarm, with the feeling that the past night was just a short, but incredibly vivid dream. He ran a hand over his cheek and was convinced that it was not. Joseph's business card lay on the nightstand. He had to quickly come up with something to tell Peter. Jack decided that the best story would be that he was visiting a library rumored to contain ancient manuscripts on building technologies. He knew that his supervisor, though he would be displeased, wouldn't be able to deny him such a scientific whim. At 8 in the morning, an old, dilapidated car, more like a battered chariot than a vehicle, was already waiting for him at the hotel entrance. Amir was at the wheel, and Joseph was sitting next to him. Jack, struggling to fit his bag in the back seat, joined them. "Did you sleep well, future pioneer?" Joseph grinned slyly. "If you only knew what I told my supervisor," Jack muttered, fastening his seatbelt. The car started with a heart-wrenching screech. Amir, skillfully navigating the chaotic city traffic, began to say something in Arabic, shaking his head. "He says this car is like our understanding of history. It seems to be going, but no one knows when it will fall apart," Joseph translated and laughed. The road led into the mountains. Outside the window, small villages, drowning in greenery, and terraced fields dotted with fruit trees flashed by. As they climbed higher, the air became cleaner and fresher. "Official science believes that civilization developed gradually," Joseph said, ignoring the rattling and clatter of the old engine, "from primitive tools to complex ones. But in Baalbek, in Egypt, in Peru, we see a completely different picture. Stones worked with millimetric precision, as if with some kind of lasers." "It's also possible with hand tools," Jack objected, though without his former conviction. "It just requires an incredible amount of time and effort." "And where did they get so much time, if they had to find food from dawn till dusk?" Amir interjected. "Legends say that their technologies allowed them not to waste energy on food and water. They could get energy from the air." "Nonsense," Jack scoffed. "That contradicts all laws of physics." "Higher mathematics was once considered magic too," Joseph countered. "It's just that your brain, accustomed to constraints, cannot accept what is outside of them." Suddenly, the car stopped. Around a corner, a huge flock of sheep slowly hobbled into view. A shepherd, a bearded old man, waved his hands in greeting. "Well, there's our first real-life situation," Joseph chuckled. "You can't fool nature. But at least you can breathe. We are almost there." They got out of the car. The sun was hot, and in the distance, the entrance to a cave, looking like the maw of some monster, was visible. They had to walk for about an hour. Jack, unaccustomed to such exertion, quickly got out of breath. "Not as easy as a lecture hall, huh?" Joseph teased him. "But it's good for you," Jack replied, wiping his sweat. Finally, they reached the cave entrance. It was cool and damp inside. Joseph took out a flashlight. "I told you, Jack," Peter's voice was hard and cold, "not to get involved in these amateur stories. But you didn't listen. Now you're with me. And these, we'll deal with them." Joseph and his friends exchanged glances. A trap. Jack, in turn, looked at his once warm, friendly, now threatening world. His eyes stopped on the cube, which was still quietly humming. There was no escape. He was trapped. Chapter 7. Peter Galkin stepped forward. His face, usually impassive, was distorted with anger. Behind him stood two men in camouflage, holding automatic rifles. Their eyes were hidden under helmets. "Stand down, Peter," Joseph said calmly, making no sudden movements. "Why this charade? Do you really need this thing so badly?" "Not me, Joseph. Not me," Galkin replied, his voice echoing through the cave like a predator's roar. "We represent an organization that preserves order. We protect humanity from the chaos that finds like this bring. And you know it. You were once close to the truth yourself. The truth should be public." Amir shouted. "The truth can be deadly," Peter countered, pointing at the cube. "What if this thing is a weapon? What if it can destroy a city? Or the whole earth? Did you ever think about that? You romantics live in your fairy tales, and we, the pragmatists, have to clean up your mess." Jack felt his heart pound. He finally understood that this wasn't just a scientific debate. It was a struggle for power, for the right to possess knowledge that could change the world. "This is not my business," he shouted. "I'm a graduate student. I'm not supposed to be involved in this." "It is now," Galkin said coldly. "You touched it. You lit it up. You became a part of this." At that moment, Jonathan, who had been standing by the cube all this time, quickly typed something on his tablet. The device began to emit a piercing sound. The cube, which had been humming quietly before, let out a roar, and its patterns began to pulsate even faster. A soldier, standing closest to the cube, staggered, clutching his head. He dropped his rifle. "What are you doing?" Peter shouted. "It's not a weapon, it's an energy source," Jonathan whispered. "Energy that affects all living things. The nerve endings, the brain. It causes dizziness, nausea. Enjoy it, Professor." The soldiers began to fall, one after another. Peter, trying to stay on his feet, took a pistol from his pocket and aimed it at Joseph. "You've gone too far," he growled. "This shouldn't have happened." But before he could pull the trigger, Joseph, Amir, and Jonathan grabbed Jack and dragged him toward a side passage hidden behind a pile of rocks. "Run!" Joseph shouted. "This won't stop them for long." They ran, scrambling over the rocks, stumbling. Shouts and footsteps echoed behind them. Jack, feeling his lungs burn and his heart about to burst from his chest, couldn't understand what was happening. He was completely bewildered. Emerging from the cave, they scrambled down a steep slope and ran into a small grove. Joseph grabbed Jack by the shoulder. "We can't go back to the city. They'll be waiting for us. We are fugitives now." "Where will we go?" Jack whispered, out of breath. "To the people who are waiting for us," Joseph replied. "To those who believe in us and will help. And I know who they are." Chapter 8. Running under the scorching Lebanese sun was hard. Jack, unaccustomed to such exertion, could barely keep up with his new acquaintances. Amir and Jonathan, it seemed, didn't even notice the steep slope, the rocks underfoot, or the heat. They nimbly leaped over obstacles, constantly looking back. Joseph, holding Jack's arm, urged him on. "Come on, Jack, come on. They'll come to their senses soon. We need to get away." They descended into a small gorge. Its bottom was strewn with sharp stones, and a small stream flowed across it. Joseph, Amir, and Jonathan stopped to catch their breath. Jack collapsed onto one of the rocks. His lungs burned, and his mind hammered. Graduate student. Archaeologist. Fugitive. "What am I doing here?" "I don't understand what happened," he gasped. "Who is Peter Galkin? And what is that organization?" "The Order of the Guardians," Joseph replied, sitting down next to him. "They believe that ancient technologies and knowledge are a weapon that can destroy our world. They hide everything, destroy things, falsify facts. They're willing to do anything to maintain their order, which is built on lies." "You mean?" Jack trailed off. Everything he knew about official history now seemed like a beautiful but empty fairy tale. "Yes," Amir said quietly. "My grandfather was also involved with them. And he ran away. He couldn't participate in this deception. He told me they even killed people. Those who were close to the truth." "That's impossible," Jack whispered. "I just can't believe it. I mean, I saw it myself. But—" "You'll have to," Jonathan cut him off, taking a bottle of water from his backpack and handing it to Jack. "Because you're in this up to your ears now. And you're lucky that Joseph has friends who can help us. We are outlaws now." "And who are these people?" Jack asked. "Like us, they're searching for the truth," Joseph stood up. "They live in the mountains, away from civilization. It's a small settlement called Mountain Echo. They don't recognize modern borders. They are the keepers of ancient knowledge. The Guardians." Jack smirked. "Like the ones we are running from." "No," Joseph said. "They have a different goal. They don't destroy. They preserve." They started walking again. Now they were on a narrow, barely visible trail. With every minute, the air became colder and fresher, and trees resembling cedars began to appear around them. Finally, after a few hours of walking, a beautiful valley opened up before them. In the middle of it, hidden from prying eyes, was a small but very neat settlement. "Here we are," Joseph announced. They were met by an old man with deep wrinkles on his face and bright, kind eyes. His beard was as grey as the snow on the mountaintops. "I knew you would come, Joseph," he said, addressing their leader, his voice sounding as if he had been speaking for 1,000 years. "And I was waiting for you, Jack." Jack looked at the old man in amazement. He had never seen him before. How did you know my name?" he asked. "That stone," the old man pointed somewhere into the mountains. "It told me. It was waiting. It was waiting for someone who would be like them. It was waiting for someone who could understand." Chapter 9. Jack was stunned. He stood before an old man who seemed to see right through him. "The stone?" he asked again, nodding toward the same cave. "But how?" The old man smiled gently. His eyes, bright and wise, seemed to see not only the present but also the past. "What you call the witness stone," he began, "is not just an artifact. It is a key. And not just a key, but a living repository of knowledge left by those who came before us. Our ancestors. We call them the giants, not because they were huge, but because their spirit and knowledge were greater than ours." "But the legends speak of giants," Jack interjected. "Legends are always exaggerations. Over the thousands of years they've been passed down from generation to generation. The images have been distorted. But the essence remains. They were people. They simply reached a level of development where they could create what you, people of our time, consider magic." "And how did they build?" Jack asked, remembering Baalbek. "They controlled matter. Not with brute force, but with the mind." The old man paused, as if gathering his thoughts. "It wasn't magic. It was technology. Their whole life was built on energy that they drew from the air, from the earth. That very cube is not a weapon, but only a small part of their legacy, a kind of battery that recharges from the earth's energy. And it was waiting. It was waiting for a person with a special biofield. A person like them, capable of reading what it holds." "And you know what that knowledge is?" Joseph asked. "In part," the old man nodded. "We, the mountain echo, preserve fragments of their wisdom. But the greater part is in other places, scattered all over the world. And your Order of the Guardians," he looked at Jack, "they think this knowledge is dangerous. They believe that we, modern humanity, are too foolish and selfish to use it for good." "And they're not so wrong." Jack exclaimed. "We already have nuclear weapons. What will happen if we get this kind of technology? It'll be the end." "The end of what?" the old man asked calmly. "The end of foolishness? The end of wars? Possibly. What matters is not what you can do, but who you are. You are the one who touched the cube. You are the one who can understand. You are one of us." Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. He was a graduate student who dreamed of defending his dissertation, and now he was part of something much bigger than he could have ever imagined. At that moment, he realized there was no turning back. "So what do we do now?" Jonathan asked. "You need to find the other keys," the old man replied. "The cube you saw is only a small part of the whole. It's like a single note in a symphony. And I know where the next note is." "And where is that?" Amir asked. "On Easter Island," the old man said solemnly. "Another one is hidden there. And it, like this one, is waiting." Joseph, Jonathan, and Amir exchanged glances. The path was long and dangerous. The Order of the Guardians would not leave them alone. But they had no choice. They had to go on this journey to find the other artifacts. And Jack. He would have to accept his new destiny. And he was ready for it. Chapter 10. Easter Island. The words sounded like the echoes of an ancient, forgotten song. But for Jack, they became the new meaning of his life. He was no longer just a graduate student on the run from his academic advisor. He was part of something great. The plan to escape Lebanon was put together hastily, but very clearly. The old wise man, the head of the Mountain Echo, provided them with everything they needed: money, fake documents, and even an old but reliable SUV. "Get to Beirut," he said, handing Joseph the keys, "and then to the airport. They won't be looking for you there. They'll think you're still in the mountains." Jack, Amir, and Jonathan quickly packed up. A sense of danger hung in the air. They knew that Peter Galkin wouldn't give up. His fanatical devotion to his order knew no bounds. The drive to Beirut was long and filled with tense silence. Only occasionally would Amir mumble something to himself in Arabic, something about jinns who patronize travelers. Jonathan sat, hunched over his tablet. He was trying to decipher the data he had managed to read from the cube. "I got it," he suddenly exclaimed. "I found something. It's coordinates. Coordinates." He turned the tablet to Jack. The screen showed a world map with 2 dots, one in Lebanon, the other on Easter Island. "Is this a treasure map?" Jack joked, but there wasn't a hint of his former irony in his voice. "Possibly," Jonathan replied seriously. "This cube isn't just a repository of knowledge, it's a navigator. It points to other artifacts." At the Beirut airport, they acted like professional spies. Calmly, without unnecessary fuss. Security, immigration. Jack's heart was pounding like crazy. He was afraid they would be recognized, that the documents would be fake. But everything went without a hitch. They boarded a plane bound for Paris. From there, they planned to fly to South America. Finally, as the plane took off, Jack looked out the window. Goodbye, Lebanon. Goodbye, Baalbek. Goodbye, his old life. What now? Amir asked, looking at Jack. Now, Jack smiled. Now we search. For the truth. On board the plane, they didn't sit idle. Joseph told stories that seemed to be torn from ancient legends. About giants who lived in America, who were wise and kind, but then became arrogant and were punished by a great spirit. He told about the Navajo tribe, who knew the secrets of construction. Do you believe that? Jack asked. I don't believe it. I know it, Joseph replied. I've spent many years searching. And I'm glad you're with us. I feel that you're not with us by chance. You will be our link between official and alternative history. Jack looked out the window thoughtfully. The clouds drifted by, and somewhere beneath them, he knew, was a world full of secrets and mysteries. A world he had to solve. Now he had a purpose. And he was ready for it. What if they find us? Amir asked. Then we'll fight, Jack said firmly, a spark in his eyes. Now I have something to fight for. Their journey was just beginning. A journey full of dangers, adventures, and new discoveries. A journey to a truth that had been hidden from human eyes for thousands of years. And that truth was waiting for them on a distant island, lost in the ocean.